What is calcium hardness? Calcium hardness refers to the amount of dissolved calcium and magnesium in the water. These minerals enter the water from the soil and rocks that the water flows over from its source to your tap. The hardness level of water depends on the type of rocks and soil it flows over. For instance, water flowing over limestone, which contains a large amount of calcium, results in hard water. The water needs a minimum of 150 ppm of hardness to maintain balance and prevent it from becoming aggressive or corrosive. The term hard water originally refers to water in which soap wouldn't produce much foam or suds due to the presence of mineral salts. If you've ever tried to use soap with salt water, you'd understand how difficult it is to create lather, which is characteristic of hard water. Nowadays, water hardness refers to the amount of dissolved calcium and magnesium in the water. What is calcium hardness in chemistry? In chemistry, calcium hardness refers to the amount of dissolved calcium and magnesium in water. These minerals enter the water from the soil and rocks that the water flows over, and their presence results in what is known as hard water. The hardness level of water can vary depending on the type of rocks and soil it flows over. For instance, water that flows over limestone, which contains a large amount of calcium, would result in hard water, while water that flows over granite, which contains little calcium, would result in soft or aggressive water. How does calcium hardness relate to the saturation index? Calcium hardness is one of the key factors used in the calculation of the saturation index, SI. The SI is a mathematical equation developed to predict a specific water's tendency to form calcium carbonate scale. Calcium and magnesium are essential in water to prevent it from becoming aggressive or corrosive. The water needs a minimum of 150 ppm of hardness to maintain balance. For plaster pools, the target calcium hardness is 350 ppm, while other materials like vinyl, fiberglass, and acrylic, the target hardness level is 250 ppm. What is the importance of calcium hardness for pool water? Calcium hardness is crucial for pool water as it prevents the water from becoming aggressive or corrosive. The water needs a minimum of 150 ppm of hardness to maintain balance. If the water lacks sufficient calcium, it can lead to the dissolution of plaster pools or the metallic parts of the equipment. On the other hand, excessive hardness can lead to scaling, depositing a hard white or off-white crusty material on tiles, heaters, and pool walls. Therefore, maintaining the right level of calcium hardness is essential for the longevity of the pool and its equipment. What determines the ideal hardness level of pool water? The ideal hardness level of pool water is determined by the type of pool surface. For plaster, exposed, aggregate, and tile pools, the target calcium level is 350 ppm. For vinyl, fiberglass, acrylic, and other non-calcium-based porous surfaces, the target is 250 ppm. The minimum calcium hardness level for pools is 150 ppm. In areas where the surface water has high calcium and magnesium levels, it's necessary to use this high hardness water, but adjust the pH and total alkalinity accordingly. How does calcium saturation vary, and what are the target levels? Calcium saturation in a pool varies based on factors such as pH, total alkalinity, temperature, and total dissolved solids, TDS. The minimum calcium hardness level for pool is 150 ppm. For plaster, exposed, aggregate, and tile pools, the target calcium level is 350 ppm. For vinyl, fiberglass, acrylic, and other non-calcium-based porous surfaces, the target is 250 ppm. In areas where the source water has high calcium and magnesium level, is necessary to use this high hardness water, but adjust the pH and total alkalinity accordingly. So how often should we check the hardness level in a pool? The hardness level in a pool should be checked every 3 months. The hardness level in a pool doesn't increase rapidly, but it's good practice for us to check the calcium hardness every 3 months. We should also test the tap or source water before draining to determine its hardness level. What causes low calcium hardness in pool water? Low calcium hardness in pool water can be caused by the use of source water that lacks sufficient calcium. If the water does not have a minimum amount of calcium to reach saturation, it becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This often leads to the dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pool, aggressive water starts to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. What are the effects of low calcium hardness in pool water? Low calcium hardness in pool water can lead to difficulty in balancing water, etching of plaster, corrosion of metal components, iron skin irritation, and foaming. If the water lacks sufficient calcium, it becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This often leads to the dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pool, aggressive water starts to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. What are the signs of low calcium hardness in the pool? The signs of low calcium hardness in a pool include the water becoming aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This often leads to the dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pool, aggressive water starts to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. What are the consequences of swimming in a pool with low calcium hardness? Swimming in a pool with low calcium hardness can lead to difficulty in balancing water, etching of plaster, corrosion of metal components, iron skin irritation, and foaming. When the water in a pool lacks sufficient calcium, it becomes aggressive or corrosive. This can lead to the dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pool, the aggressive water can start to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. This can cause iron skin irritation for swimmers. Additionally, the water can become difficult to balance, leading to issues with water clarity and cleanliness. The water can also start to foam, which can be unsightly and affect the swimming experience. Is low calcium hardness level in pool water dangerous? Yes, low calcium hardness level in the pool water can be dangerous. Water requires a minimum amount of calcium to reach saturation. Without it, the water becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This often leads to the dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pools, aggressive water starts to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. Therefore, maintaining a minimum calcium hardness of 150 ppm is essential to prevent the water from becoming aggressive or corrosive. The target calcium hardness level is 350 ppm for plaster pools and 250 ppm for pools made of other materials like vinyl, fiberglass, and acrylic. How to increase calcium hardness in the pool? To increase calcium hardness in a pool, calcium chloride is used, specifically adding 14.4 ounces of 100% calcium chloride or 19.2 ounces of 77% calcium chloride to 10,000 gallons of water raises the calcium hardness by 10 ppm. If the calcium hardness is near the target level, adjustments to total alkalinity and pH should be considered. If the calcium hardness is low, the amount of calcium chloride needed to reach the target should be calculated. The target calcium hardness level is 350 ppm for plaster pools and 250 ppm for vinyl pools. How to achieve calcium hardness balance in pool water? To achieve calcium hardness balance in pool water, you should first test the water to determine its current hardness level. If the calcium hardness is low, you can increase it by adding calcium chloride. If the hardness level is high, you can decrease it by draining some water or using a chemical that claims to lower hardness. The target hardness level is 350 ppm for plaster pools and 250 ppm for vinyl, fiberglass, and acrylic pools. It's recommended to check the calcium hardness every 3 months. What happens when there is too much calcium and magnesium in the water? When there is too much calcium and magnesium in the water, it becomes oversaturated and deposits the surplus in the plumbing equipment or pool vessel. These deposits are known as scale. If the water has the potential to create these deposits, it is referred to as scale forming. Excessive calcium and magnesium in water can lead to a number of issues. The oversaturation of these minerals can cause them to deposit in the plumbing system, potentially leading to blockages and damage. This is particularly problematic in pool vessels where the deposits known as scale can build up on the walls and equipment. The water's ability to form these deposits is often an indicator of its hardness, with harder water being more likely to form scale. What happens when water has too much hardness? When water contains excessive hardness, it begins to deposit or precipitate the excess amount it can no longer hold. The process is known as scaling. The hard white or off-white crusty material on tiles, heaters, and pool walls is scale. High hardness levels can also cause the water to become cloudy. What are the effects of high calcium hardness in pool water? High calcium hardness in pool water can lead to scale formation on the vessel and equipment, cloudy water, eye and skin irritation, and difficulty in balancing the water. If the water contains excessive calcium, it can become oversaturated and deposit the surplus in the plumbing, equipment, or pool vessel, a process known as scaling. This can result in hard white or off-white crusty material on tiles, heaters, and pool walls. Additionally, high hardness levels can cause the water to become cloudy. What are the consequences of swimming in a pool with high calcium hardness? Swimming in a pool with high calcium hardness can lead to scale formation on the vessel and equipment, cloudy water, eye and skin irritation, and difficulty in balancing the water. Is high calcium hardness in the pool dangerous? No, high calcium hardness in the pool is not dangerous. However, it can lead to issues such as scaling and cloudiness in the water. How to correctly test for calcium hardness in the water? The correct way to test for calcium hardness in water involves a process of titration, typically using ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid EDTA. The first step is to increase the pH using a base reagent, usually sodium hydroxide, to eliminate any interfering magnesium in the water. The second step involves adding a color indicator to the sample, which usually changes from light red to sky blue as the titrant is added. The third step is to add EDTA drop by drop until the end point is observed. The number of drops is then multiplied by a calibration factor, usually 10, to determine the calcium hardness level. Good lighting is crucial for accurate results. How to lower pool calcium hardness? To lower pool calcium hardness, you can drain some of the pool water when the hardness level reaches 500 ppm. Alternatively, you can chemically lower calcium hardness by adding trisodium phosphate, which causes the calcium in the pool water to precipitate with the phosphate, creating a fine white particle that clouds the water. This precipitate then needs to be vacuumed or filtered out. What are the effects of calcium hardness on pool water quality? Calcium hardness can significantly impact pool water quality. High calcium hardness can lead to scale formation on the vessel and equipment, cloudy water, eye and skin irritation, and difficulty in balancing the water. On the other hand, low calcium hardness can cause issues such as difficulty in balancing water, etching of plaster, corrosion of metal components, eye and skin irritation, and foaming. Therefore, maintaining the right level of calcium hardness is crucial for maintaining pool water quality. Calcium hardness refers to the amount of dissolved calcium and magnesium in the water. If the hardness level is too high, the water begins to deposit or precipitate the excess amount it can no longer hold, a process known as scaling. This can result in a hard white or off-white crusty material on tiles, heaters, and pool walls. If the water lacks sufficient calcium, it becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This can lead to the dissolution of plaster pools or the metallic parts of the equipment. The calcium hardness level in a pool can vary based on factors such as pH, total alkalinity temperature, and total dissolution solids (TDS). The minimum calcium hardness level for pool is 150 ppm. For plaster, exposed, aggregate, and tile pools, the target calcium level is 350 ppm. For vinyl, fiberglass, acrylic, and other non-calcium-based porous surfaces, the target is 250 ppm. When water evaporates from a pool, only the pure water levels and the dissolved solids, including calcium and magnesium, remain. Over time, this hardness and dissolved solids accumulate, and as more water is added to the pool, more hardness is also added, especially if the makeup water has a high hardness level. Consequently, hardness levels in the pool keep increasing. Therefore, it's important to closely monitor the pH, total alkalinity, and water hardness levels. What happens when calcium hardness levels are inappropriate? When calcium hardness levels are inappropriate, several issues can arise. If the water contains excessive hardness, it begins to deposit the excess amount it can no longer hold, the process known as scaling. This can lead to the formation of hard white or off-white crusty material on tiles, heaters, and pool walls, and can cause the water to become cloudy. On the other hand, if the water lacks sufficient calcium, it becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This can lead to the dissolution of plaster pools or the metallic parts of the equipment. Inappropriate calcium hardness level can also make it difficult to balance the water, cause iron skin irritation and lead to foaming. High hardness levels can cause scale formation on the vessel and equipment, while low levels can lead to etching of plaster and corrosion of metal components. Therefore, it's important to regularly check the hardness level in a pool, ideally every 3 months, and aim for a calcium hardness of 350 ppm for plaster pools and 250 ppm for other material like vinyl, fiberglass, and acrylic. What happens when water lacks sufficient calcium? When water lacks sufficient calcium, it becomes aggressive or corrosive, attempting to dissolve any available source of calcium or magnesium. This often leads to a dissolution of plaster pools, as plaster is made from calcium. In non-plaster pools, aggressive water starts to dissolve the metallic parts of the equipment. What is a scale? A scale refers to calcium carbonate deposits that form on surfaces in contact with extremely hard water. How to balance calcium hardness and total alkalinity? To balance calcium water, CH, and total alkalinity, TA, first check the CH. If it's near the target of 350 ppm for plaster pools or 250 ppm for vinyl, adjust TA and pH. If CH is low, add calcium chloride. If CH is more than 400 ppm, consider mixing or replacing the water. Then, check TA and pH. If TA is 80 to 100 ppm and pH is 7.4 to 7.6, no adjustment is needed. If TA and pH are low, add sodium bicarb or soda ash. If TA and pH are high, add acid. To balance these parameters, it's crucial to conduct regular testing. For alkalinity, if one of the two total alkalinity color indicators reagents is present in the sample, follow the manufacturer's instructions to eliminate the excess chlorine. For calcium hardness, the test involves increasing the pH using a base reagent, adding a color indicator to the sample, and then adding EDTA drop by drop until the endpoint is observed. How does calcium hardness impact pool water balance? Calcium hardness impacts pool water balance by determining if the water is overly soft or hard. High levels of calcium hardness can cause cloudy water and scale formation, while low levels can damage the pool. It's important to maintain a balanced saturation index to prevent calcium carbonate from dissolving or depositing as scale. Low calcium hardness can cause difficulty in balancing water, etching of plaster, corrosion of metal components, and iron skin irritation. High calcium hardness can lead to scale formation, cloudy water, iron skin irritation, difficulty balancing the water, and foaming.